Hello, hello, and welcome to the Rock Metal Podcast. I'm your host, John Harris, and today on Rock Metal Podcast, we have WARCALL back for the attack because they have a new EP called Dead End Part 2, and they were originally on the show. We're trying to figure that out. We could just look it up, but who needs facts? But Matthew, I believe, was on the show earlier in the year to chat about Dead End Part 1, which is a great interview and a great EP. I'm very excited to chat about this one because on November 26th, via Plan B Music, comes Dead End Part 2 from WARCALL, and Matthew's going to share some more information about this release. So, Matthew, bienvenue.
Sir.
Bienvenue. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man. Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Absolutely. Tell us about this EP. How is it different from the first one?
Different songs, for sure. So it's a continuation, basically, of Dead End Part 1. It's the second batch of songs that we had written during the year 2018, 2019. Most of the songs were written in 2019. So it's really a continuation of Part 1. We get back where we left, and it's 5 more songs in the same style. Our usual, in your face, thrash, melodic style. But on Part 2, you have a few songs that are more, let's say, atmospheric, complex, with a different flavor that we're not necessarily used to explore. So that's what's different, but same kind of production, same kind of feel, same sound, same musicians, of course. So it's really a continuation of what we did on Part 1.
Yeah, you mentioned adding some atmosphere. How did you guys do that? Is it synthesizers? How did you do that?
That's an interesting story. The songs themselves are more atmospheric because of the riffs and the how we wrote the songs, and we wanted to take the opportunity to release Part 2 just to work on these atmospheres a little more, adding some synths and textures and stuff like that. But every time we tried something, it didn't feel right. It didn't feel natural in the setting of the song. So, at the end, we just decided, let the song speaks for themselves, and let's release them as they are instead of just adding some atmospheric stuff for the sake of it. If it doesn't bring the song to another level, if it doesn't add value to the song, well, I forget about it. So we tried tons of stuff, and it was not to our liking. So we preferred the raw versions of the songs are pretty excellent as they are, so might as well release it like that.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Now, you mentioned same production, same everything else. So when you guys were going into crafting this EP, basically it was, well, we're happy with EP1, so obviously a new batch of songs, but otherwise, we're not going to change production or anything else in Part 2.
Well, Part 1 and 2 were recorded at the same time, actually.
Okay.
So it was the same recording sessions. We just delayed Part 2 to let it soak a little bit, see how what kind of reaction we got from Part 1, maybe things we could improve or do differently. But at the end, we just said, you know what? It sounds really good and the songs are awesome, so let's release it like that.
Yeah, now, we probably chatted about this last time we were chatting about Part 1, but for those who are just tuning in now, you did 2 EPs that were recorded at the same time. Why not just do an album?
That's a very good question. Because of the global context of 2020, the lack of opportunities for us to tour, to play shows, to expose our music to the fans, we thought it could be a good strategy to just delay the 2 releases to keep us top of mind for our fans and the audience, to make sure that since we cannot go on stage and make the music happen live, at least things are moving in a flow that makes people think about us. Basically, that was the strategy behind it. Okay. And I'll as well give us some time to reflect on the songs and try to improve them, which we did not do at the end because we thought, as I said, they were quite okay like that.
Well, and that's just it, Matthew, is that, you guys did the right thing. You're thinking, okay, we'll release basically half the album now, and then if we get enough feedback to change some things, we have time to change the other half. But it sounds like the feedback that you got was, keep going, keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, well, positive all the way. So we had some feedback on the way we present the album. Sometimes people don't understand when we cite influences. So we change a little bit our approach on the marketing side, quote unquote, if there's such a thing in what we do. But it helped us mature the way that we present the band, basically.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to presenting the band and marketing, I'm curious, what did you need to do differently?
Just the way one reviewer really ripped us apart because in our press release and stuff like that, we say for the people that like Maiden, Motorhead, Slayer, Dissection, at the Gates, we cite our influences and the bands that we like most. And that guy was like, who the hell they think they are? They compare themselves to all these big bands, blah, blah, blah. So we were like, okay, maybe we could do something different. But we challenge ourselves and say, okay, is it really the right thing? But on the other hand, I mean, this is what we listen to. This is what makes us passionate about what we do. So, I mean, I cannot say that I compare to bands that I don't listen to. So we thought about it, but didn't change that much our approach at the end because, I mean, it is what it is. This is what we listen to.
Yeah, screw that guy. I would recommend 100% dialing in the larger names that everybody knows that you are remotely close in style to. And the only time I've ever had a problem is, for example, I had a band that sounded like Iron Maiden, not like exactly like Iron Maiden, but they were in the vein of Iron Maiden, and they started naming a bunch of other bands like Behemoth. Like, you don't sound like Behemoth, you sound more like Iron Maiden. And they went, oh, we didn't know that we could say that we sound like Iron Maiden. Well, you're not like an Iron Maiden tribute band, you're not like an Iron Maiden cover band, like you don't really sound like Iron Maiden. But definitely find something that you're in the vein of so that people know, like, oh, you're like Iron Maiden? Cool. I know right now whether I'm probably going to like you or not. And, we go from there. Because if I name a bunch of other bands, I mean a bunch of other small bands you never heard of before, well, what's the point? Now I'm just confused.
Exactly. But since then, we discovered new bands. For example, Gord, our singer, really got into Skeleton Witch recently. So, and he said, hey, man, I love this band, and I think they sound a bit like us and stuff like that. So, okay, it's another new comparison that we can add to the mix, maybe a more underground band. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, you must compare to bands that at least people know and that you can relate to, and that do influence your music.
Yeah. I agree. Now, speaking of influences in music and drinking beer, we have a song called Intoxicated. It has a beautiful music video where the boys are driving around. Is this Montreal you guys are driving around in?
Yep.
On the way to go get poutine, I imagine, and bagels and all those wonderful things you do.
All the good stuff.
Yeah. All the good stuff, baby. And they're jamming out in the car. How did you guys not get pulled over? This is amazing.
Great question. We're surprised ourselves. I mean, the strategy was to wake up really early on a Sunday morning because Montreal on Sunday morning is really, really calm. So we said, let's drive around at 9:00 on a Sunday morning and see where it leads us. So the fact that it was early on a day where nothing much was happening really helped us. So it was like, nobody noticed us even. I mean, we were at red lights sometimes. People were crossing the street, not even batting an eye at the car. And we were like jamming in this. So people didn't really notice, surprisingly. So we did what we had to do. And we had quite a lot of fun, actually, filming that video. Really an interesting experience because we didn't have a cameraman. So everything had to be done by ourselves. So being creative to make sure that when a band member films the other guys, well, we have to have another shot with him in the frame. So another guy had to film another sequence. So we had to be creative and just make sure that we could do it. But at the end, I'm glad that you seem to be liking the result. We really had some fun thinking about it and then actually producing it.
Yeah, I'm watching the singer who's driving and it looks like filming himself all at the same time. And,
we had 2 GoPros stuck into the windshield, one at the back. So nobody was holding a camera, but they were all like with the suction things in the windshield and hanging around everywhere. So, yeah, it was really interesting.
Cool. And that's you in the front seat with the Les Paul?
Yep, that's it. Okay. My trusted Les Paul.
Are you left-handed?
Yes, I am. It's a big tragedy of my life, but I mean, it is what it is. When I learned the guitar early on, I didn't foresee that it would be difficult to come across instruments at the end. It's the biggest hurdle.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it came in handy here because otherwise you would have had a guitar in the singer's face.
Absolutely agree.
Take us through this Les Paul. What is this right on the record that you used to record?
Not this one. This one I used another guitar, my Jackson, for different reasons. But this Les Paul is the one that I bought when we got out, when we left came back from our first European tour. So, and this guitar was on pretty much all our recordings, and it's mainly the guitar I use when we tour. So that's why it's special and a bit battle scarred.
Special and battle scarred. Wow. Your singer looks very angry. He has a middle finger on his jacket. He has a rifle on his jacket. He looks like he belongs to the rebel forces.
Okay, that's an interesting take. He's just healthily angry. Nothing to be afraid of.
That's right. That's right. That's fantastic. Okay, now, so we've got this new EP. We've got the new marketing scheme. We've added some atmosphere to the thrash metal. We have the amazing music video for Intoxicated. What else is there to chat about? Are shows able to happen in Montreal?
Soon. We've just confirmed Winter Bash Part 2. This is happening, so it's going to be January 29th at Piranha Bar, downtown Montreal. We did the first edition of the Winter Bash in January 2020, right before everything locked down. So we were hoping, of course, naively to be able to do Part 2 in 2021. Did not happen, but now we have a confirmation that January 29th, it's happening. So we're really looking forward to it, looking for bands to complete the lineup. We have like half of the lineup confirmed already, so this is going to be announced pretty soon. And we are starting to work on a fourth European tour for next fall. We're getting some interesting offers in Czech Republic, Germany. So we're working on that at the moment. Really early stage, but I think it's going to happen.
I think it will too. I think that by next fall we will have sorted out enough of the kinks in. I think we'll be in endemic times rather than pandemic times.
Yeah, I agree. That's why it's a safe bet to work on that, and I'm sure that everything's going to be fine. I mean, a friend of mine just came from Spain, and his feedback was basically, besides masks here and there, it feels like there's no real COVID happening over there. In England, shows are packed, so there's good reasons to think that everything's going to be fine. And in 1 year from now, almost to the day, we'll be playing gigs over there.
Cool. All right. Is there anything else?
That's what feeds us. That's what we love. We love to travel. We love to be together, with the guys and go on the road. So it's been tough for the last 2 years. So now that this is all getting back together, the wheels are starting to turn again. We have a newfound motivation to keep this going. Already starting to talk about the sixth album. So things are looking up.
Did you say it's album number 6? Is that what you just said?
Yep. Yeah, because what's going to happen is that on January 29th at the Winter Bash, we released Dead End Part 1 as a digital EP. Dead End Part 2 is a digital EP. But for those who still collect CDs, and I know there are a lot of people that want to have a physical copy of Dead End. Dead End Part 1 and 2 are actually going to be on the same record, and it's just going to be Dead End with the 9 songs on a physical, not digital, but physical platform, yeah. So this is going to be released on the January 29th concert. And if people want to order it, we have our new website, warcall.ca. Check it out because it's a really cool website. We've been working on this all summer. Basically, it's the archive of the band. Everything that we have, everything that we've done is documented there. We have the list of all our shows, and we link. We have tons of videos on YouTube, so if you click on the links besides the show...
I agree. Thank you so much for coming back onto the Rock and Roll Podcast.
Thanks for having me, man. Thanks for the support. Always a pleasure. And let's keep in touch.
Mm-hmm.